Very interesting has happened. Most of your white constituencies saw DA as the home.
Yeah.
Now the DA is working very hard to diversify its base, and they are choosing young black leaders as they are bringing those leaders and they are vacillating on the issues of affirmative action.
Yeah.
That's when your core traditional white voters, especially those who were brought about by the National Party, start shifting away, looking for a specific home like Freedom Front Plus, which is very specific on the minority rights and on the land issues and so forth. And that there is a push for a more radical transformation on the land, the ownership, and the EFF making its own noise on some of the issues. It's bringing the white constituency in parties like Freedom Front Plus close, and as such they are realizing that they have to defend their base.
And you believe they'll do a little bit better in this election?
Marginally, if you are from a low base, that you move from 1 point something percent to another 1 point something, it's almost negligible.
Let's speak a bit more about identity politics now. Speaking about the racial divide, black, white, the colored vote, the Indian vote, the so-called minority vote. I'd like to ask you how far we've progressed as a country. I think it was an Ipsos survey that said the ANC may increase its white voter population or even members to about 5% and double digits for the DA, if I'm not mistaken, something in the region of over 10% and maybe between 10 and 14. How prevalent is the issue of identity politics in South Africa at the moment?
Given our history of close to 350 years, in 20 years you wouldn't turn that situation so dramatically around. But what has happened is that areas which were known to be traditional bases of the ANC or traditional bases of the DA or Freedom Front Plus are now being penetrated by the parties which used not to be there. DA's penetration into the black areas and villages is phenomenal. ANC's conscious decision to say that we're losing out on the minorities, we should regain that ground in their last election, has also had an impact. So the opening up of spaces. Some years ago, DA tried to open an office in Umtata in a mobile van, and that was harassed out of the place. But today you find people walking in DA t-shirts even in the remote areas. So that penetration accounts for the increase of parties in their non-traditional bases.
How do you find the balance, though, for a party like the DA in luring the new votes, let's call it the younger black vote, but then not alienating your existing constituency as you have with the likes of the merger that we see with Gang that went totally awry, and then land issue scenarios, and the scenario that's playing out in the Western Cape where it looks like this race might be very, very close between the ANC and the DA?
Well, what I would say is that it's a very difficult act to follow, because initially DA targeted the white constituency. They went on to target the colored and the Indian constituencies. Now they realize that they have to go for the black constituency. Now when you bring that black constituency, sometimes they've pushed hard to select young leaders, some of them inexperienced. Those old guard liberals begrudge that fact because DA is supposed not to be for affirmative action, but in reality what brings these leaders is an affirmative action conscious effort.
Yeah.
So that has an element of alienation, and later on it may even impact on your traditional liberal philosophy, because the more constituencies which are black and not very close to the traditional liberal philosophy may challenge some of the issues.
Well, let's leave it there for now. This issue of race is something that's still very prevalent in South Africa, but one we definitely need to probe a little bit further. But right now, it's been a couple of days that have been so eventful as far as politics are concerned in the KwaZulu-Natal area. Some good, some not so good.